Okay. Good morning. Man, I cannot get this restream figured out no matter what order I start things in. It just does not want to work. Very frustrating. Let's close that. Okay. So we'll jump straight in here. I didn't get very far yesterday because I had an appointment last night and then I was too tired. So I didn't get very much done yesterday at all, which is frustrating, but such is life. Let's discuss. So where this is failing is communication with the. Actually, that's the plain text host, isn't it? Plain text host and plain text. Yeah, that's not HTTP at all. That's that. But I don't think these matter. Just to help me line them up properly. So I got to figure out why this doesn't want to communicate. The problem is we have a very limited window of startup. So how do I validate that? I need something to tell me, or some way of. Is there a configuration or something I can add in that will ping or do something to validate the connection? IaC, Kafka, broker, can't each zookeeper. Unable to connect to zookeeper pod. Can I connect to Kafka? But zookeepers are still. Yeah. Unable to connect to zookeeper pod from Kafka pod in Kubernetes. And the answer was never given 3 years ago. And then we have. Here we go. Okay, let's advertise listener settings. So advertise listeners. What was the. Yeah, but that shouldn't matter. So what's the output of kubectl get service? Okay, so that's essentially doing that, right? When we run it. So let's bring it up. Pulumi up. So SSH K8S curse. Okay. Uh, Turns out there's additional configuration. There you go. I had the same problem with accessing Kafka from outside of Kubernetes cluster on AWS. I managed to solve this issue by using Kafka listens feature from which, right? So advertise listeners and listeners, internal plain text, listener security protocol map. This I still don't quite get. So advertise listeners and then listeners. We have advertised listeners, we do not have listeners. Let's do this. Let's do no. So they have advertised listeners and then listeners. That shouldn't matter because Kafka's not listening to them unless the zookeeper does some sort of ping. Although that wasn't marked as an answer, was it? So advertise host name. The problem is not me connecting to Kafka. The problem is Kafka connecting to Kafka. So I get the using Strimzy, but I don't. It just seems overkill, and it's, again, I don't intend to deploy Kafka, so I'm curious as to why I can't get this piece to work specifically. Um, uh, oh, so even if I take that, right, this is Kafka listeners value, take that, right? There's no, in their configuration, there's no 9093. Oh, that's 29092. Oh. Hello, Mark. How you doing? Come on, get your walking shoes on. Winter Greg's. Oh, how much I'd love a nice cappuccino and a steak bake. It's only 7:15 in the morning. This process is determined to give me more grey hair, so we'll see. Now, I don't think this will work any better. Because that what I've just configured there is communication with um with the broker. They're not even in the same network. Cluster IP is different. Oh, hold on. That's why. That's why, isn't it? They're not even in the same subnet. They might be in the same namespace, but they're not in the same subnet. I wonder if that. Well, hold on. That's definitely a thing to figure out. Doing good. Doing good. Had my MRI on my knee last night, so hopefully get some answers there. Not kubectl. I don't care about that. Specifying two deployments in the same network. So one way of testing this would be to do Pulumi down. Okay, so the way we test this is we take all this out because it's nice and neat. That's probably the news part. We should look at the result. Hopefully it's something and nothing, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's hey, it's just a sprain, that's good in some respects because it means I'll just do PT. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do const Kafka deployment equals this. What we're gonna do is here Kafka deployment. So what we're gonna do there. Right, so we're gonna have a zookeeper still, but we're going to then put in the exact same piece. We're going to put in Kafka, the broker. How's the computer investigation coming along? Have they figured that yet? Walking stick will only add to your artillery as a martial artist. Absolutely. And then we're going to get the service. So what I'm validating here is the fact that if I put them in the same deployment, they should have the same subnet and they should have no problem talking to each other. Now, it means that to do it this way means that if I scale up, or if I want to scale out the number of instances, I'm going to scale the zookeeper in parallel with the broker, which is not the way you need to do it. Zookeepers have the way I understand it, zookeepers are kind of redundancy of communication with the clusters of brokers. They're not a clustering mechanic in themselves, but we'll see. I could be wrong. But yeah, I think it's the wrong way to do it. But this will at least. Okay, so that exposes all those ports, and then this is the Kafka service. Still waiting for the investigation to complete. Currently waiting on a form to sign for Cyberport before they will release another unit. What a ridiculous process. Okay, so we got the containers. I mean, if this worked, it wouldn't be the end of, like I've said, it's not the end of the world because um it's going to mean that I can use the cluster. It's just not really ideal if I wanted to scale it. I mean, it's a bit of a pain that they have to go through all that effort. I get it. They're gonna have insurance or something on that unit, so they're gonna have to claim on that or whatever. But it's still, it's messing you about. It's not very fair. It wasn't your fault, and you've done everything you can to prove it Kafka service is invalid. Name Kafka. What does the... Oh yeah, the deployment doesn't matter what one jot, does it? Come on, let's delete it. Okay, Pulumi up. So what I'm kind of hoping for here is by the end of the week, I have at least Kafka deployed. And I mean, ideally, I'd like to have the service deployed, a service deployed, so I can see things starting to work. Come on. Kafka is in, service Kafka is invalid. Spec port names required value. Oh, now you need a name. I don't remember doing this. The other things. Um, nope, we didn't do it on that one. Oh, ooh, Do a quick Minions impression. Ooh, Oh no, selector app. Oh, you're a donkey. Um, I bet you that's that. Application labels. If it takes longer than 30 days, I can maybe seek a little compensation from the seller and a reasonable amount of time to provide the bought product. 23 weeks. 23 days have already passed. Yeah, yeah. Never know, you might get that upgraded processor. Upgraded processor, upgraded RAM. Okay, so that's application label. So that's that. So that's application labels. This is all very confusing. Yep, yep. It's built. The computer's back together. I was building it all on. I went to turn on the PC the other day. It came on, so I was like, okay, maybe I've got a few more days. And then the next day, I tried to turn it on. It didn't come on again. So I was like, okay, new PC time. So I built it in a couple of hours the other night, and it's running nice. So we'll see how that goes. So that was a motherboard, processor, memory replacement. I think it was the power supply because it's funny. My friend was recently telling me a story about his an EVGA power supply from a couple of years ago that his computer would just act weird. And I opened this PC up, and lo and behold, it's an EVGA power supply from a couple of years ago. I'm like, maybe that can't be a total coincidence. Okay, so what did I call this label here? I use the names. Did I not do that? Labels. I did not put labels on things. I don't think that's got anything to do with anything, but maybe labels help. We'll figure that out afterwards. Okay, so this is going to be Kafka deployment. Kafka stack, we'll call it. Okay, so then we do here labels is application labels, and then we also do selector in here is application labels. Mojo, good morning. Pulumi it up. Oh, that looks healthier. So we have a Kafka service. All those ports are exposed. We have names for them. That's good. We've got the labels on it. The workloads, we've got a pod, and it's in a crash loop. Oh, look, it's the broker. Zookeeper's up and running. Let's see why it's failing. It could be just waiting to start up. Port is deprecated. Please use advertised listings instead. Ah, okay. I lost my mojo. Did you see? I lost my mojo. Did you just see Twitch chat? I thought I want it back. I'll be right back. I gotta get the dogs in. Ugh. Right back. Morning, daughter. How you doing? Um, yeah, the chats, by the way, I have tried everything I can. I've disconnected, I've reconnected, I've tried to use Restream. It will not join my chats together, and I cannot find a solid option. Um, um, StreamerBot, actually, StreamerBot wouldn't work the last time I tried it. Maybe we try StreamerBot quickly because it would be nice to have a unified chat. StreamerBot does do that as well. Because Restream is just completely. I've got to believe that a configuration in Restream has gone wrong, and oh, how do you even use this silly platforms? So last time I did this, yeah, StreamerBot tries to redirect to a localhost address, and it isn't running. Oh, it won't complete the auth for some reason. Hey, Emporium guy. So I cannot get Twitch and YouTube to talk, which means you don't see YouTube chat on Twitch and you don't see Twitch chat on YouTube, which means it's a lonely existence. I apologize. Okay, but I've got to. That's for another day, I suppose. Okay, so the listeners here, it complains about them being deprecated. So let's get them up. Pulumi up. Emporium guy. As much as I would have liked to, attending your stream at 3 o'clock in the morning is a little bit beyond me. But if you do want to hang out, If you do want to hang out in a great stream, nice. I won't say chill because he has his moments of frustration, but generally chill stream. Pointing the guy stream is a good place to go. He's trying to learn more about .NET, Blazor, all those sorts of fun things. So a lot of .NET. The Twitch slots stink anyhow. Don't want to talk to them. It's frustrating that they can't communicate. Okay, so what does that look like now? So that was deprecated. Now we've got an error. Error. Launching Zookeeper. Launching the broker. Oh, did I not do the right thing there? Pulumi. No, I did. I brought it down. I didn't specify that. Please use port is deprecated. Please use. Yeah, I did. Pulumi down. -Y. He's trying to learn the parts of .NET that aren't complete. He just likes to struggle. Be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Small emergency. Okay. Have you tried using mega transfers? I just don't get why they have megahertz and on the RAM still if it's all mega transfers now. Okay, so if you just join, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if the containers are in the same deployment, will it put them in the same subnet? And that means um, um, that they can communicate well. Sorry, for those of you wondering, buyback is a real word and it means enjoy the music. Huh, nice. So where am I using port is the question here. Kafka server, deprecated port, but I'm using listens in env. I ran into the same thing. It was due to Kubernetes generating the schema registry port and var based on the name of the pod. I was able to resolve this by naming my pod service to something other than schema registry. Kafka service. Let's make sure I don't have any conflicting broker zookeeper, Kafka stack, Kafka deployment. Oh, hold on. Let's try that. Afternoon, Mr. Jones. What deployment are we on now? Preview. We have. I can skip the preview, but it's not. It also validates to begin with, and because I've got such a track record of messing this part up, it might as well do it. We're on deployment 157. Okay, how many deployments will I be on before I get this working fully? I think I'm averaging about 50 to 60 a challenge right this second. Okay. Pods. Well, it didn't error straight away. Did it communicate? Come on. Technically, yes. Technically, yes, it did work. Uh, uh, state error. 7:30. It's running, but it's not running. Unable to canonize address. Ah, that makes a lot more sense now. Right back. Because I actually pronounce it. Okay. I get it. That's funny. Unable to resolve address. So the funny thing is here, before it was trying to connect and timing out, but now it's unable to resolve the address. And by funny, I mean really annoying, and it's unable to do that because it's not communicating to the service. It should be communicating to that. Pulumi down. So now it is actually trying to communicate. Well, I think it was always trying to communicate. Let's use our brains on that one. TBD. They're not always silent, are they? um, what was I going to say then? Oh, next week. Next week's going to be an interesting week. Um, I start the week with a day off, so I should probably, yeah. So I have a long weekend. Um, we're given Veterans Day in our organization, so we get Monday off. Then then I'm away on Wednesday evening, so I will not be streaming on Thursday next week, but I'm off on Friday next week as well, so I'll have longer streams Monday and Friday next week, but no stream on Thursday. Hopefully by that point we're making more progress with Pulumi and things are ticking along nicely. No, that didn't work. It's still failing. Unable to resolve service address Zookeeper 2181 because it's not resolvable. but they're going to be in the same network, right? So why does not, why does, oh, hold on. Pulumi, that's why. I want to try something. So you communicate through, if you communicate through the service and the Zookeeper port is there, then this should, but it should resolve that name. Let's see. Like in the buns and the mins. Oh, I do have to go outside. 1 second. We'll see if this does anything different. I'm just looking for differences right now. I'm looking for different behaviors to see if it's. There you go. Initiating client connection. We have a working Kafka cluster. I am 99.9999% certain I'm going to be. No. I saw it move. I know it doesn't work. Localhost. Oh. No. K8S. Host 9092. Yeah, that can't work, can it? It's not localhost. But I just saw that reboot. Yeah. It crashed still. It is not working. Zookeeper request. So it was looking more successful than the other ones. It timed out. Joy. I'll be right back. I've got to put recycles out. is one of those days where nothing's going to go the way I want it to go. Good news is, though, that the coffee today is actually amazing. It's one of those really good cups of coffee you don't want to end. Nope. Does not just taste like the beans were introduced. So using the Kafka service is wrong. Using the name is wrong. Bought in, unfortunately, slowly. Don't have a machine to make the coffee right this second. It is deceased. Like Roifi. Yeah, it was pretty horrendous. Recently introduced some decaf coffee at home, and I find it a bit bitter, but I'm drinking too much coffee during the day. Yeah, yeah. Decaf is it's good in that respect if you're drinking too much. Yep. I've had a lot of that recently. So, okay, to share what I'm thinking here is I don't know what's going wrong. I don't know which piece I'm failing to communicate on. I don't know what I've got to learn. And I don't have the energy to go and try and read through the entire documentation of Kubernetes, how ports communicate, etc. This is continually restarting. Right. Let's desktop. Will not attempt to authenticate using SASL. I'm not even getting into SASL. Session timeout 4,000 40 seconds it'll wait. Kafka service 2181. So it's not communicating on the. Well, to try and resolve. So initially I had two deployments with two services. To try and rule that out, I've merged the containers into the same deployment. So essentially, one pod. Because when I created two deployments, hold on. Does the network subnet matter when pods in the same namespace? Right. So the network subnets don't matter, is what I'm seeing. Because you don't specify the network. Shared. Sounds like it's a static port. Hold on. Pulumi down. Is this a problem of? So yeah, it's what do I communicate via? Because it's not picking it up. It's not using this, right? So if I put Zookeeper there, it doesn't communicate. So my question is, and the service default is cluster IP, right? That's the default. What I'm wondering is if I take this one out, oh, please tell me I didn't delete it. Oh, please tell me I didn't. I did. Oh, no. I cut it and pasted it into a text document and I closed the text document without saving it. Oh well. We get to rebuild it. So you can do node port. So node port exposes a service on each node's IP at a static port, a cluster IP service to which the node port service route is automatically created. You'll be able to contact the node port service from outside the cluster, but that only helps with that. That doesn't specify. I want to see what it does differently to networking. So my understanding is that by using that name here and that name there, then those two should, in theory, communicate. Being that they're in the same pod, things should be tickety boo. Well, I don't think no port really does anything for this communication. I think that's the external, yeah, unable to resolve. So now it can't resolve it. That's a whole different problem, right? And now it reboots. Unable to canonicalize because it's not resolvable. Again, because I'm trying to like this component of this component of the deployment doesn't matter if it's super scalable. It doesn't matter if it's the way that it would be in production, because the idea would be to not use this in production, right? It would be using a service in production rather than using anything self-hosted Kafka-wise. This is caused by Zookeeper, a result of I'm doing searches off screen because it's just a search. You don't need to know that I'm searching for that message, and it's not just me, by the way. Um, There's a node port. Endpoints. Oh. Assume the deployment comes valid. So when the endpoints huh, interesting. So when it's valid, that would, I assume, be what I would put into here. No, because that's 10. That's not an external IP. I have to map that anyway. I'm not on a 10 network, so there's no way that's valid. Either way, that's still rebooting because it can't communicate. So I've got to figure out why this won't communicate with. Oh, well, that ain't going to help, is it? Well, the problem. Okay. Can you exec into the pod? Where you exec into. Right. I'm on Zookeeper, not on the deployment. Right. So I'm in the Zookeeper container. There's not much I can do. Well, I'm on Zookeeper. I need to be on here, but I can't connect to here because it's not stable enough. So it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what I do there. It's not going to help me because I'm on Zookeeper. I can't test communication with Zookeeper from Zookeeper. Um, the annoying thing is I have had this working. I just don't think I have any of the content that I made it from because it's on a different computer entirely. I don't think I have that anymore. So what I've got to figure, is there a way of um I don't know how internal pod communication works. Everything I found says I can communicate via its name. So whatever name I give it here, it's the same way as Docker, right? I mean, it is Docker. Um, um, so yeah, so I can use the names is the idea. Um, K8S broker can't communicate with zookeeper by name. So yesterday's suggestion was you can do I think it's dot Kafka service dot Kafka service dot zookeeper dot svc dot cluster dot local, right? If you're communicating across namespaces, because you need to give it like it might not be service, it might be namespace, but they're in the same namespace, right? They're in ls Kafka namespace, so I think that'd be ls Kafka. But and we could try that, but that's not what I understand it to be. So if you're communicating in the same namespace, you just need to use the service name or the maybe I'm saying it right there. My Kubernetes Kafka service. Maybe I need to expose different services here, and that's the problem. Yeah, maybe that's actually the problem. Maybe I need to do. Maybe they can't be in the same service. That can be cluster IP. And then we just take this. I mean, expose Kafka zookeeper service. The label should still stay the same. And then here is this. Is that or is that? Because that points to. What points that to this? Right? I don't think that's the service address. I think that's the actual name. But the suggested answer, actually, let me change that back. So the suggested answer, it wasn't the answer, was doing that. The JMX port doesn't matter. I'm not sure what JMX actually is. It's something Java, right? Well, there's two there's 2 containers in this pod. This is someone's got it set up this way. I'm looking at an example, but I want to try. See, finding pods to direct traffic to. Okay. That says it in its name, doesn't it? I'm not saying that's going to work. I'm just saying it does kind of say it in its name. Opening socket. It's not going to work. It's going to fail. Timed out. There's the deployment. Security network. There's the broker and the zookeeper services. See, I wanted to know if if the cluster IP mattered, and it doesn't seem to matter because you specify the name. So, but you communicate via the service. Not this name, but that doesn't make sense. Oh, hold on. No, I didn't name it that way. Okay, I named it explicitly. Services for cross-pod talk, I thought. That's what I'm trying to determine. I'm looking at someone's example that does the 2 containers in the same deployment but specifies 2 services. For a multi-container pod and Minikube, this is how the service and deployment YAMLs of Zookeeper and Kafka will look like, and they do have one deployment with the Kafka and the Zookeeper in there. Right. I mean, it's easy to verify. Watch. Now we've settled on the service being the thing. We take this Zookeeper deployment, Kafka. I get that this might be a kind of naive naming, by the way. Actually, let's do the services at the end. Okay, let's take this chunk out. Zookeeper deployment. This is going to be called broker deployment. This is going to be called broker deployment. Take that part out of that one. Right. That's not a recommendation. It's the most common use case. And again, it's from the scaling perspective, right? If I want to scale, this map has moved too far over. If I want to scale my pods, I want to scale my brokers. If I put them both in the same container, I can't scale them independently. So it's a if you need to scale the entire thing at once in the same way, then yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, it rarely would make sense. Pod can encapsulate an application composed of multiple co-located containers that are tightly coupled and need to share resources. These co-located containers form a single cohesive unit of service. For example, one container serving data stored in a shared volume to the public, while a separate sidecar container refreshes or updates those files. Right, yeah. So if I had a consumer dropping text files into a directory and another service that could access them, then I would want them in the same container. Okay, so we got the broker deployment, we got that deployment. We're going to talk about everything by a service name, which I still think is incorrect. So technically that is correct. But this is the way I had it initially, but now thinking about it as being service communication, maybe that helps. It does kind of make sense that you don't talk about the container specifically, because a container it could be one or many. So you got to deal with load balancing. So communicating through the service makes a lot of sense. So you have two services. We have the broker deployment. Opening socket connection. Nope, that's going to fail again. We got about 40 seconds, by the way. Network, endpoints. There you go. It just restarted. There you go. 4 seconds ago. Previous timed out. Client session timed out. So the problem is that while it's in this restart state, I still don't have. Maybe do. ARP, ping. Oh, we do have ping. SU, ping. No, we don't have SU. So we can't ping anything. And it restarted again. Okay. But it does make sense to communicate through the service because you're not communicating to an individual container. So this has little relevance beyond itself. Now, I believe that is correct still because we're advertising it on its instance, but that should work. Aim zookeeper. So is that at this point I'm looking for different configurations to give yield different results rather than anything else. Pod name. There is no pod name. Pod is the pod is generated when I execute the deployment, when I scale up the deployment. Yeah, that's what this is doing. This is much easier for you for the stream to look at as well. So, um, come on, bring it down. There's no way that actually started working. No. Move me down. That's why. Yeah, you can do kubectl and get pods. And then you do nls Kafka when it's there, right? Kubectl get namespace. We're giving the list of namespaces, but that's all this tool is doing. Just using that API. Different. There's a different error. Unable to canonicalize. So I'm going to say that this version of it. So if we do Kafka Zookeeper service, right, 2181. This name does not have any bearing on this, by the way. It's just the name of the port. It was asking me for name ports before. Actually, also, I think, hold on. I've got a 7575. Yeah, that's fine. Because when Docker does it, Docker's just running a container, and that container gets the name Zookeeper, right? So this communication here is Zookeeper, but in Kubernetes, you're not getting that name. That service is that communication to the deployment, which has the pods. Because I could, if I scale it up, I don't want to be talking to a single pod or a single container within a pod, right? I want to be talking to that and having it load balanced across those pieces. So it does make sense that this wouldn't be. Okay, so I again, I don't want to use Strimzy. I don't necessarily understand the use of the word deployment. Deployment is a configuration of it is essentially your Docker Compose, because it specifies here's what we're going to deploy. And when I say scale it up, I want to create a bunch of the other things as well, the same things under this. And then the service communicates with the ports on that. So if you look at the service, I believe the labels here, I think it's all just matching this. So I might be messing this up with the selector stuff. I don't know. And then it just puts them all in the same kind of group. But when we use this address, we get a timeout. But you said you don't want pods to communicate. Huh? I didn't say that. I want the pods to communicate in this case. Because I need because again, I could put 3 replicas on this to get 3 brokers up and running, which will get me higher throughput. I don't want to scale my Zookeeper in the same way. But all these 3 replicas should communicate with the same Zookeeper, because that Zookeeper will keep an eye on the brokers. Something about deployments versus pods. Horn, how you doing? We are in I'm trying to figure out how to get this to communicate. So if I put a bad name here, it fails to canonicalize. Canonicalize, yeah, canonicalize the yeah, they're in the same namespace. So I've created two services, the broker and the zookeeper. And my understanding is that the name I want to give this zookeeper connected is the service. I don't want to try and give it zookeeper as a name because that's a container within a pod. That's broker. So I'm getting it's timing out when I use this name. If I use a bad name, it can't resolve it and fails immediately. But it's just timing out. I believe it's all TCP. I haven't seen anyone specifying anything different there. So the zookeeper runs on 2181, right? Container port 2181. What's host port versus container port? Number of port to expose this pod's IP address. Number of port to but does it default to whatever you specify the container port of? That would make sense why it times out. That looked fine. Okay. So we have it creating the two pods. 2181, TCP 2181, and then the broker host IP 2902. Now this sits here and goes initiating the connection to Kafka Zookeeper 2181, and now this will time out after 40 seconds and reboot. If I give it a bad name, it will fail immediately. So I think it is trying to resolve this. There you go. Timeout. Client session timed out. But the Zookeeper log shows no trace of receiving that connection either. So do you target link with or without the port? Not sure I follow. The services are running. The IP, the cluster IP does not matter because they're in the same namespace. So as far as I understand, the communication should be through the name. But this is restarting because it's failing. That doesn't require the name, does it? Because I've specified the name. Because I'll specify the name everywhere else, right? Zookeeper. But it should just map the ports. The labels, are they, when we say selector, are they used for anything specific? Like, are they used to filter anything or? You're trying to target the pod IP, but I don't know the IP until it starts up, and I can't change it afterwards. How would I know? I'm not sure how I would know the IP. Again, exec on a thing that's in. I can find out the IP, but what does the IP do for me? The IP, because the IP is here, host IP. Well, no, that's the host. Sorry. That's already rebooted. Storage, network, cluster IP. Well, I mean, okay, I've got a very limited window. I don't have any ping or anything available to me from the right piece. So ping isn't available on the broker. And even if it was, it's not, right? If I go to the pod, go to the broker and catch it on a moment, ping Zookeeper, Kafka, Zookeeper service. I can't ping because I'm not permitted. So how do I do that? Looking at Kafka setup using the cluster IP, which is a really odd way to set up, but it might be that Kafka does not do domain resolution. Paul was mostly trying some pod.namespace. Also trying to some pod namespace. What's the really odd way to set it up? Looking at Kafka setup, I haven't seen anything that, I mean, I haven't seen anything that specifies cluster IP specifically, but that's the default anyway. So I've seen more that does that. How to deploy Apache Kafka. Plain Zookeeper. 30181. Oh. Why did they specify 30181 though? What's the node port difference there? So they specify, so on this service, they're specifying node port as 30181. But they don't use that anywhere else. And they're specifying node port there. Node port is supposed to port on each host so you can connect to a service from the cluster IP at the port. Getting my head around this freaking Kafka broker. Zookeeper internal. That's port on each node on which this service is exposed when the type is node portal. Usually assigned by the system. If a value is specified in range and not in use, it will be used. Otherwise, the operation will fail. Service requires one of this. So if you wanted to communicate with a zookeeper from my machine, say I do 30181. So in the same way, if I want to do they specify deployment service? See that they leave as a regular cluster IP. But that is the one I'd expect the node port on, because unless this documentation is from a while ago. No, 2023. Because Zookeeper isn't what you communicate with. You communicate with the broker services. So if I had multiple hosts, I'd expose the brokers, because then I would be able to communicate across all the brokers. Pulumi down Y. Let's see if it changes the behavior. I don't expect it to, but we'll see. Hi, Snowball. How you doing? You in already? And you've been quiet today? No. It's just a quiet day. It's been a long week. So we have the pods, we have our network, our endpoints. Oh, wow. What's that done? Like giving everything its you. Oh, because 29092 and 9. All three of them are exposed. Okay, I get that now. On that scale, did I leave 2 in there? No. Still error. Hey, Samu. How you doing? I am trying to learn the Kubernetes still. Um, So where we're struggling, well, where I'm struggling right now, not where no one else is struggling here, is to understand why the broker piece will not communicate with. So network, the Zookeeper is configured 2181 node port, cluster IP, the endpoints, addresses 5 and 6. Why is 5 and 6 there? this a labeling thing? Hold on. Where's that article that you just sent me? Yeah, this one. So let's have a look. Kafka broker. So they specify different. Yeah. Is that part of my issue? Well, how do the labels get used? Because right now I'm copying the labels into everything, but the labels seem to have a relevance. And so because the only thing that was grouping them together then, the fact that the zookeeper was showing that it was in the same group was the fact that the labels are matched, and then a selector. Is that just a visual grouping, or is it an actual physical or a virtual grouping, I suppose? So this person's example does give app zookeeper, app zoo. So the selector here has its own labels, and then it has its own there. So yeah, the labels here for the service app zookeeper service, and then that is there, right? Because then you're using the same labels on the selector. Yeah, zookeeper. No, selector is zookeeper here. But it has its own labels of zookeeper service. So select there, and then the name on here is zookeeper. So the deployment labels metadata labels zookeeper, zookeeper, and then the deployment has its own metadata of labels zookeeper, and then that is the same here and here. I don't know if I want to see if that creates a difference. I don't know if it does. And again, I'm not a big reader. I'm a more practical person. I do better when I can practically apply something. So for some people, it might be easy and say, hey, just go read the documentation. But I don't know what I'm looking at specifically into like where my problem is. So that means I'd have to read the entire documentation on Kafka and the entire documentation on Kubernetes. I don't have the energy or time to do that. And I will figure this out. And I have done it before. But I can see why it would be, yeah. But I can't do that. And if that's the only way of doing this, then I'm going to get stuck because I just do not have um, that sort of energy. So this is that and that. And then on the here they match. The app is on the service. We have this is broker service, and then the selector here is the broker. Right? Yeah, no worries. I appreciate it, Ms. Van Horn. So the selector is the Kafka broker on this part. This is the broker service. This doesn't matter. Let's see how that behaves. So yeah, very much a way for me to learn is to do and fail. And then once I understand where it's failing and why I fixed it, then I have context of anything I read. So now I understand more about why it's failing. That will help me more than just trying to say, go and read the manual, right? Because again, I've got to get that working, to get to the manual part of this, I'd have to understand what bearing do labels have on the deployments and the services. How do they group things together? How do services communicate? Why does a service not directly? Is it the labels on that selector that actually links the service to the pod? Is that what it is? I believe that's what I'm seeing. So in that case, what does it mean? Well, this already failed, so that's not going to fix anything. Because if I look over, where was it? Network services, endpoints. You see now this doesn't have 5 and 6. This just has 5, just has 6. So they're clearly not grouping that way. So that's definitely why the labels are doing that. So now there's only one address in here. 5 and 6 are not showing in here. So that's a visual or a kind of a association thing, I suppose. So the labels are just to help you organize your cluster, not to actually do anything in terms of resolving names. So it's not changed. It's timed out waiting for connection, Kafka Zookeeper service 2181. So let me just prove Pulumi down. All right. So if you are new to the stream, if you have questions about what I'm doing, if you want to, if you think you can help me in any way, I'm okay for conversation. This is not one way where I'm not accepting of help. That being said, you know, I'm trying to learn at the same time, and I'm trying to share this journey to, so I realize that I'm struggling. That's okay because a lot of people do. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Okay, so that helps me there with the labels. I'll tidy up the actual associations afterwards. But this is the crux of our problem. How do we get this to communicate with this? Also, they set the service up before they set the actual. There's our Zookeeper service. There's our broker service. But we tried. So hold on. Let's do something a little bit more drastic. We tried that dot metadata dot want to try something. I want to see that should come out with Kafka Zookeeper service, because that's the name I gave it. But if it still gives it an internal name of some form and that's missing, then that would explain that. I'm also removing the port because it should be the service that I'm talking to, and I'm wondering if it will figure that out or it's going to give me a different error. I'm just looking for different errors at this point. Hi, tricky lady. How you doing? Welcome in. So bad. That's not good. Interesting. That's very interesting. Ah, we have a configuration over there. No worries. Thank you for the look. Appreciate it. I didn't like that part. Oh, because it's an output, isn't it? It's the same problem as before. So that is not a string. Yeah. Get. I don't want to do that. Oh, okay. It's just get then. Okay. Oh. I don't believe this is going to create any sort of revolutionary difference. I think this is just going to show me that it's going to be the same exact name as it was before. But if it is different, it would explain it. Can I call get during update or preview? I kind of see why bringing the services up after the deployments is a bit better, because it does mean that the services aren't sat there waiting for a pod to be arriving. But I need to get this. How do I get this? Because this is not a name must be unique, with the namespace is required when creating resources, or some resources may allow a client to request the generation of an appropriate name. Cannot be updated. Right. But how do I get that? You can do Pulumi.concat. That'll work. Pulumi up. So what's my hope here? My hope is to get over the Kafka hump in by today. Get over the Kafka hump and then be able to move on to getting service deployed, communicating with the SQL server, and just try and get little pieces. Like maybe I can get the tenant management service up and running. We can register a tenant. Get everything going through there. Zookeeper. Okay. Yeah, see, Kafka Zookeeper service. It's definitely the name it uses. So it's not like it's resolving a different service. That's going to fail. Let me do that. But it should be the name. It should be the name. And I don't want to just go to the Strixie thing because it's too big. I want to be able to deploy this so that I can use it and manage it myself without having to depend upon someone else's significant network policy. Oh, man. Let's try the network. The network looks nice and simple. So with the network, ingress from pod selector. So how do you add? How do you put the? What's a stateful set versus a deployment? So I could get away with just that. Okay. Yeah, I don't need stateful set right this second. Okay, that's why it's stateful set, because then if I bring it up or down, I don't lose the topics and all the data. Yeah, okay. Which I don't really care about right now. So let's create a network. Const network equals new K8S dot networking dot v1 dot network policy. Yes. That'll work. Pod selector match labels network. So hold on, let me just validate this. So what they have is const network labels equals that. That, in which case that's network labels, ingress from pod selector, and then we can do, then on the deployment, we can do metadata labels on a template. Is that an array? It's not an array, right? No. So I'd have to do, so Kafka, so on here, we need that. And then on this one, we need that. And then on the service, we don't mention it because it's fine. Is that good enough? The other thing is the host name in Kafka config. Host name. So now would that actually be Zookeeper again? I don't think that is going to do, but we'll see. Try. I'm mainly doing that now to validate, because otherwise I'm just going to be all over the place, right? Right. Oh. Can I localize address Zookeeper? It's not resolvable. So it doesn't like that. It doesn't like. So what they're doing though is they're doing that, to get rid of that, which is fine because that's the same thing. Let's do one more try. I will continue trying to do this off stream. Again, if you are interested in knowing how I get along with this, if you want to ask any more specific questions about the application, about what I'm doing, it's all good to do. What I'm trying to do for those that are new to the stream is I'm trying to deploy an application that I've been building for the past year to a local Kubernetes cluster, mainly to learn about the deployment, but also to try and be able to deploy a version that we can use to dog food as we go forward. which is a very important piece to validate the ideas and the decisions in it. So if you are interested, you are more than welcome to join the Discord and ask more questions. We do hang out on there from time to time, and we do discussion around this stuff. Do stuff around this. So this will give a different error. What? No, that's not working. That is not. That looks like that's working. Yes, that is on my posh. I've said it before. I get carried away from time to time, but that is communicating with that zookeeper, because it's talking about it's this back and forth over leader, etc. So when you have multiple brokers, one is delegated the leader, and when if you have the multiple brokers scaled out, they have to get quorum before a message is committed. It's part of the resilience of Kafka. It's how you scale out and give reliability. Is you basically say, okay, well, I want, if I deploy, um, I want to, have agreement. I got it. So it's just checking to see, but it looks like that's working. Now the challenge will be add new connection. I did put node, no port. We could. So 192.168.1.236.9092. I don't think that's going to. Bob. That's not going to work. However, if we go back into here, so I need to expose to be able to communicate with that Kafka cluster from my network, right? Which ultimately would not be the goal, right? I would not want as a developer to be communicating with this cluster. So I don't need to have access. So if we go to here and do forward that, so 54841. 54841, right? 54841. Is it 236? Now I'm doubting myself on the IP address of that machine. It might be 16. No, 192.168. Yeah, it's the right address. Oh well. Zookeeper doesn't matter in this configuration because brokers are the only thing that it matters to deal with. So that doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's not really the biggest worry. What now matters is that that is up and running. which is very cool. I don't think it's that one, 55287. Yeah. But so, Mr. Anholm, thank you very much for that assist there. We were on the right track. We had diagnosed it as being a communication issue, but the answer there was, so this, I'm going to leave in there because if I decide to let this generate a different name, this it's going to use that because I've specified the name. But if I let it generate a name, then that will break instantly if I have it just copied and pasted. So I'm okay with that name being there. So what we did there was define a network policy. And then when we add the deployments, we join them into that network. Or we say the part of that network. I'm not sure why that, as far as I understand the metadata thing, it's more of a kind of, these things are related. You can kind of see them at the same time. So I should be able to see labels of, labels, network Kafka true. Like, why is that the differentiator there? I don't know, but it is. So we have a SQL server, we have a client application, we have a Docker, we have a Kafka piece up and running. The next piece is to get the API gateway up and running, and the and then the tenant management service. So tomorrow, or by tomorrow, hopefully, I can work towards those pieces. Now, there's still things like configuration. How do I get the configuration to work? There's a lot of different pieces in there to feed into the build of the client, the configuration of production, etc. Environments. How do we do that? How do we manage that? So there's still a lot to do, but we're getting there, and I'll continue to stream it, struggle and all, which will be challenging at times. So let me just git status, git add, git commit. Create first Kafka deployment, network services and deployments. So if I was trying to build a more serious cluster for Kafka, I would go and look at that Strimsy thing because it looks like it is built for that specific purpose. However, all I need is a workable Kafka node here to interact with so that my application proves that it's communicating with Kafka properly. And again, when this goes to production, this will use a service rather than using a self-deployed Kafka instance. So I'm not worried about that part. I do not want to get into the realm of deploying Kafka myself. Network services and deployments of Kafka broker. Yeah, that's good enough to commit right now. So we've got a working piece. Okay. That being said, it is time to call it. I do have a job to do, sadly. I would right now I'm in the place where I would rather do this because it's focused. Not reading. Okay, let's go raid out. Today we're going to raid White Panther. I know that at least several of you will be there already, so that's okay. Yes. I will continue this tomorrow. We will. I'll continue as much as I can this tonight and try and get a little bit more progress made tomorrow. Configuration of the service, and yeah, we'll get there. So stand up time. So other fun on the charts. It's all good. It's all good. Don't worry. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Again, once we get this deployed, we can start planning out developers.stream and do a few weeks focus on that and get that up off the ground. Let's go Red Wire Panther. Oh no, we're going to change that up. Someone was smart and just started stream up. Yes, he did. Okay, so we're gonna go raid Emporium guy because he just started stream up. He's learning about Auth0. He's learning about Blazor. He's learning about all sorts of stuff. Warning: I gotta start warning this when I know about it. My language is PG. He swears a bit more, but he's a nice guy and he's a great streamer. He's getting his way around it. So thank you very much. Audible. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon.